Tesla charging station went up in flames.
We're boycotting Tesla.
I sold my Tesla.
Shut up, Elon! Go home, Elon!
They're gonna kill us first, but you're next!
Another day, another unhinged woke boycott that's actually getting violent? We're going to break down the crazy protests that are turning violent against Elon Musk and Tesla, plus a viral clash between the press secretary and an Associated Press reporter, and so much more. On today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across our media, our politics, and the internet, all from an independent perspective. Up first, like I mentioned, we've got to talk about a really crazy story where across America, protests, some peaceful protests on the streets, but also widespread vandalism and attacks on Tesla stores are all taking place as part of a broader backlash to Elon Musk's political involvement in the new Trump administration. Take a listen to some coverage of this really disturbing news from CBS in Chicago.
Oh, hey, ho, Elon Musk has got to go. Hey.
Weekend protests at the Chicago Gold Coast Tesla dealership were peaceful. In New York, there were arrests after a demonstration at a Tesla showroom. Last week in Oregon, the windows of a dealership were shattered by bullets. And in Massachusetts, a Tesla charging station went up in flames.
Us Tesla drivers are a little bit under attack.
Back in Chicago, Ed, who asked us not to use his last name, was parked on Lakeshore Drive last month when he says his blue Tesla was vandalized, with a clear message to Tesla's co-founder, Elon Musk.
And I look and I see in giant white spray-painted letters, F Elon. You could probably fill in the blank. For what? It didn't affect Elon, and it's something that I had to deal with.
I've seen a lot of vandalism cases over the years, but this one might take the cake.
The profane graffiti was buffed out at Richard's Body Shop in Albany Park.
They're getting vandalized just for no reason, just because they're driving Teslas.
Thank you. This is a lifesaver today.
Good.
Owner Eddie Zipperstein says what happened to Ed's blue Tesla is not isolated. A Tesla owner and now customer recently sent Zipperstein this video taken in Chicago that shows a white Chevy hitting the bumper, backing up and then accelerating again, damaging the car. The driver gets out and walks away.
It's Chicago, yes, when parking, sometimes bumpers kiss.
That was not a kiss. That was intentional. That one was, they sped back up and rammed right into him intentionally.
The owner of this body shop says he's not only fixed vandalized Teslas, he's also been targeted for owning one.
Yeah, this is my car and I see it, I get it myself. The kind of car you drive shouldn't be like a reason to get attacked.
Ed says ultimately it's Tesla owners like him suffering the consequences, not Elon Musk.
If you're trying to make an impact or make a statement, do something more productive. Be an activist, get out there and, spread your message in a more positive way. Don't affect a random person and spray paint graffiti on their car.
So this is getting kind of insane. I mean, look, these people have every right to go to the streets, as you saw in the video, and stand outside Tesla stores, which are all owned by Tesla. There's no franchises. So it's not like they're protesting a random dealership. They are protesting Tesla when they go to that store, and Elon is obviously the CEO of Tesla, and make their message heard. If they hate Elon, if they object to what he's doing, they have every right to do that with their signs in the streets. But this vandalism that's so widespread that body shop owners are just seeing this, week by week, people coming in with Teslas, you're just destroying and harming random people's cars to what? Own Elon Musk? Doesn't affect him. It just screws over your random neighbor who, for all you know, is a Kamala voter who bought the Tesla years ago. And even if they are a Trump supporter or an Elon supporter, so what? You still don't have the right to destroy their car or vandalize their property. That's psycho. And I got to be honest, the people who are actually taking their time to protest Elon right now seem kind of extreme. Here's a clip from a street interview over on Andrew Callahan's channel talking to some of the protesters that were gathered outside one Tesla store.
We're boycotting Tesla.
I sold my Tesla. I traded it in for a Subaru, actually.
Shut up, Elon! Go home, Elon!
When you already have 300 billion, why do you need more?
Wake up! Fight back!
I have friends who are undocumented.
As a queer person, I've been affected by this. Elon is the biggest clown there is, so I decided to dress up as a clown today.
Elon Musk gonna make Cuba the 51st state.
Tech bro, you're gonna go.
The 51st state, man. He tweets 200 times a day, the man. He's on ketamine and he's not well.
These two people are in bed together. They're doing it to everybody, not just to each other. They're doing it to everybody. We're all part of this. It's horrible.
They're gonna kill us first, but you're next.
Fire Elon Musk and send him to Mars, where he belongs.
Yeah, so some of these people seem kind of insane. It's totally fair to disagree with what Elon and Trump are doing, to want him out of the White House, to oppose the Doge efforts. It's controversial. They're moving fast. They're breaking things. They're identifying some real problems. But of course, people are entitled to have a different opinion on it. But if you're out here thinking that they're going to kill people or calling on a U.S. citizen to go home to South Africa, you've lost the plot. And your Delulu is showing. Also, the queer person in the clown makeup, really? And I'm sorry, but like, they're not doing anything to affect lesbians. Okay, calm down. Now, President Trump says he plans to label the ongoing attacks and vandalism against Tesla as a form of domestic terrorism. Take a listen.
Mr. President, you talked about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists because...
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. You know, I've stuck up for the NFL. I've stuck up for a lot of American companies and other companies, but American companies. I did a very big favor for the NFL. I do favors for all. When you heard an American company, especially a company like this, supplies so many jobs that others are unable to do, when you do that, those people are going to go through a big problem when we catch them. And we have a lot of, you get a lot of cameras up. We already know who some of them are. We're going to catch them. And they're bad guys.
So that Trump comment is sparking some controversy, but from what I've read, that labeling would be largely symbolic and doesn't really entail any difference in the criminality of how these people would be punished. And frankly, I hope that Trump and the authorities, state, local, federal, whatever is appropriate, do catch people who are vandalizing random people's vehicles or sabotaging and smashing windows at dealerships, because I don't care how upset you are about them cutting government spending or shutting down agencies. That's not how we do things in America. You don't get to violently protest and attack people's property just because your fifis are hurt. Now, this issue is really interesting to me because you're actually seeing a lot of normie liberals speak out against this kind of thing that's going on, this backlash to Tesla. So much so that even Reddit, which is a notoriously left-wing user base, the online mega forum, has people speaking out against these vandals. One comment on this story, Trump says he will label violence against Tesla dealers domestic terrorism, says, "I'm glad. I'm a lifelong liberal who bought a Model 3 years ago because I wanted to reduce my carbon footprint. Now I'm afraid to leave my car in many areas. I didn't vote for the orange clown or his lap boy, but I can't really afford to switch cars because of politics. Plus, I really like my car." This comment for me really shows how senseless this is, how they're really just victimizing random people, and that's just not okay. That said, people do have every legal right to protest and, yes, boycott Tesla, refuse to buy any of their cars or products, as well as Elon's other companies, if they want to. Yet, Trump kind of muddied that water with a post he put out on Truth Social. He wrote, "To Republicans, conservatives, and all great Americans, Elon Musk is putting it all on the line in order to help our nation, and he is doing a fantastic job. But the radical left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla, one of the world's great automakers, and Elon's baby, in order to attack and do harm to Elon and everything he stands for." He went on to say that he's going to buy a brand new Tesla to show his support for Elon, and thank him again for putting his tremendous skills to work in order to help make America great again. So Trump has every right to buy a Tesla, to promote Elon, to thank him for his work, but I have no idea what he's talking about when he says that Tesla boycotts are illegal. They're not. Americans have every right to boycott companies they disagree with politically, and that's part of their free speech and freedom of association rights. In fact, we've seen conservative Americans in recent years boycott everything from Bud Light to Target over different political messages or ideas the companies are associated with that they disagree with. That's perfectly legal, and it's a right that everybody's entitled to. Ultimately, I feel like the line here shouldn't be that hard to thread. vandalism and property destruction is unhinged, unacceptable, and un-American. But people have every right to protest and, yes, boycott if they so choose. I feel like it's not actually that complicated, and the fact that this is becoming such a divisive issue honestly confuses me. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I do take the time to read the comments, and I always love hearing what you guys have to say. Plus, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed while you're at it. Now, we're going to talk about a clip of the White House press secretary that's going absolutely viral that I have a slightly different take on than many people. After this, people constantly ask me where they can get truly fair and unbiased news, but the truth is there's no such thing. The only way to sort fact from fiction and get to the real truth is to know what both sides are saying, which is why I've used Ground News for years. Ground News gathers related articles from around the world in one place, with context about the source's political leaning, reliability, and ownership, so you can compare coverage and quickly understand the bigger picture. For example, you guys remember the story we covered a couple of weeks ago about the intelligence community employees in official government chats who were talking about sex changes, genital surgeries, and other very explicit material. Well, a story like that is so subject to bias and partisan spin that you can only really find out what's happening with Ground News. Right-leaning media highlighted the most inflammatory parts of the story, like the Post-Millennial, where their headline reads, CIA NSA officials use government chat to say they want intersex babies so children can choose gender later. Meanwhile, using Ground News, we can see that not very many left-of-center outlets covered this story, but the left-leaning LGBT media outlets that did cover it very much downplayed the scandal. Pink News writes, NSA staff accused of sex chats at work, but they were just discussing LGBTQ+ issues. This really puts media bias on full display, because describing those highly graphic chats as just discussing LGBTQ issues might be the understatement of the century. It is so hard to deal with information overload and the sensationalism of modern media and figure out what's really going on. But that's a key part of my job here on this show, and it's why I use Ground News all the time, and I'm happy to recommend it to you guys. You can get the same plan that I use, which is the Vantage subscription, if you sign up through the link on screen in the description, ground.news/Brad, or scan the QR code on screen to get unlimited access to every feature on the platform for just $5 a month. Sign up now, you'll be glad you did. Okay, so we're going to talk about White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, who's going viral for her clash with an Associated Press reporter that MAGA is celebrating as if she just owned this woke journalist. But I have a little bit of a different take. First, let's run over how people are presenting this exchange. The popular Republican account Media Lies tweeted the clip and said, Karoline Leavitt just demolished the AP to their face. Right-wing YouTuber Benny Johnson shared the clip and said, 911, there's been a murder. Fire emoji. Meanwhile, Sean Hannity's Fox News Chiron described it as Karoline Leavitt schooling the AP reporter. Now, I'll roll the actual clip for you, and you can see if you think this accurately describes what happened.
When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not
and
true.
I'm curious
He's not doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
They
don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
So I do not think she just owned this reporter. Now, to be clear, I don't think the reporter came off great. He sounded kind of obnoxious and snarky in the way he phrased his question. But Caroline Leavitt just said multiple things that are objectively untrue and economically incorrect, then had the audacity to complain, "How dare you question my knowledge of economics?" Clearly, Caroline, someone needed to. And it's the press's job to test you and scrutinize the things you guys are saying. So don't act like a snowflake. "How dare you question my understanding of economics?" Come on. And on the substance of what she said, she just claimed that tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. That is objectively a factually untrue statement. Tariffs are new taxes imposed on imports, a large portion of the cost which gets passed on to consumers via higher prices. So the tax incidence, who it's really borne by, is partly foreign companies, but also partly American consumers. You don't have to take my word for this, guys. Conservative economists would almost uniformly agree with the statement I just made. So would right-leaning economic groups, and even many otherwise MAGA-supporting Republicans. Former legislative director for President Trump, Mark Short, tweeted, "The idea that tariffs are a tax cut is nonsense. Tariffs are essentially a tax on American consumers and businesses, plain and simple. Importers pay them up front, and those costs get passed down to you. This is Econ 101. He's exactly right, and that's why I find it so annoying that she was like, "How dare you test my knowledge of economics," when clearly her knowledge of economics is somewhat suspect. Now, you can argue for the tariffs and say, well, they are taxes and they will cost Americans, but we'll use that revenue to cut other taxes, or it's worth it because it will protect American jobs. And I don't really agree with those viewpoints, but we could at least have a legit debate about them. But you can't just gaslight us and tell us that imposing new taxes is a tax cut on Americans, when we all know that's not true. Now, yes, she's technically right that they are imposed on imports. So technically they're paid by importers, so American businesses, not actually foreign businesses, but the economic incidence of them, who actually absorbs the cost, is a mix between foreign companies, who obviously face fewer purchases for their products and sometimes have to eat part of the cost of the tariff, and American consumers, who it gets passed along to in the form of higher prices. So when we talk about who a tax is on, we typically don't talk only about who it's technically levied upon, but also who bears it in practice. So technically, sales tax in many states is paid by the store, not the customer. But because it just gets added by the store to your costs when you check out with your items, we all talk about it as, oh, it's a tax on consumers. But technically, it's a tax on retail stores and real retailers. See how this is kind of a dumb semantic game to play that obfuscates what's really happening? Anyway, I just think the Trump administration is steering things in a poor direction when it comes to this trade war. You can see the stock market really responding poorly to it, and just all the instability and uncertainty of changing their minds every few days. Oh, then we're going to do this new tariff and then this one in response to that. Oh, actually, I'm suspending that one for a month. The chaos of it all is harmful. Businesses rely on some degree of stability and predictability to make investments, and they really don't respond well or prosper when there's instability and chaos in the economic environment. And honestly, that's what I'm picking up from a lot of the things that are going on with the Trump administration's trade war. But what do you guys think? Do you think Caroline Leavitt owned this woke reporter? That's not my take on it, but I do want to hear from you guys in the comments. And now we'll run through some quick hits, some funny and crazy stories that came across my desk in the last 24 hours that I want to run through with you guys. Up first, another woke celebrity has fled the United States. This time it's Trump's infamous enemy, Rosie O'Donnell, who just announced she has officially left America. Take a listen to the dramatic TikTok she posted from her new home nation.
I'm here in Ireland, and it's beautiful and warm, not physically, it's actually quite cold. Moved here on January 15th, and it's been pretty wonderful, I have to say. Although I was never someone who thought I would move to another country. That's what I decided would be the best for myself and my 12-year-old child. And here we are. You know, I'm happy. Clay is happy. I miss my other kids. I miss my friends. I miss many things. And when, you know, it is safe for all citizens to have equal rights there in America, that's when we will consider coming back. It's been heartbreaking to see what's happening politically and hard for me personally as well. The personal is political, as we all know.
Yes, I'm sure as a multimillionaire celebrity who lived in LA before this, she's just been struggling terribly. Give me a break with that one, okay? And honestly, good. Bye. Don't let the door hit you. If you hate America so much, if you think it's so terrible just because you disagree with the current administration, then you should leave. You should go. I support that. Although I do find it totally alien. Like, I could never do this, especially when if I had kids and all my grandkids, except for one of my children, was still in America, just ditching them all in some political protest and not getting to see my grandkids very much. I would never do that, but it's your life, I guess. And I will give Rosie a little bit of credit that unlike a lot of the celebrities who say, oh, we'll leave America if Trump wins, she actually did it. At least, you know, she gets a little bit of credit in my book for putting her money where her mouth is on that one. When so many of them talk the talk, but then when actually push comes to shove, do not walk the walk. I still think she's Delulu. It's silly to act as if, oh, America is suddenly this hellhole where no one has rights. That's just not the case, especially not in California and Los Angeles, where pretty sure all the rights she's concerned about are still in place. So yes, she's Delulu, but at least she's actually consistent Delulu, with actually matching her principles and her words with her actions. I can respect that a little bit. But what do you guys think? Will you be grieving this enormous loss to American culture? Let me know in the comments. Up next, this is a sad one. Yet another obese influencer just died prematurely. Take a listen to this summary from the Daily Mail.
Efekan Kultur, a popular TikToker from Turkey known for his binge-eating mukbang videos, has tragically died at the age of 24 due to weight-related health complications. With 174,000 followers, Efekan became well known for consuming excessive amounts of food on camera, a global trend that has gained popularity since the mid-2010s. His health had been rapidly declining since December 2024, leaving him bedridden and dependent on a machine to breathe. His mobility issues, caused by his size, prevented him from even visiting his mother's grave after her passing a year ago. Efekan was discharged from the hospital to continue treatment at home, where he ultimately passed away. His death is part of a growing trend of content creators losing their lives at a young age due to extreme eating habits. In China, 27-year-old Pan Xiaoting died in July 2023 after consuming 22 pounds of food during a 10-hour live stream, and American tailor Bryce Lejeune passed away from a suspected heart attack at just 33. As the trend grows, concerns mount over the dangers of excessive eating for entertainment, raising questions about the long-term impact of social media-driven food challenges.
So this is really sad, and my heart goes out to him and his family because I'm sure he was a lovely person and he's lost too soon. But all because of this really toxic movement and worldview that rewards this stuff. And that's why I won't stop pushing back on the body positive, health at any size movement, the idea of fat positivity. Obviously, society needed to correct after the early 2000s and kind of body shaming and unrealistic body standards. Not everyone's going to be a size 0, and not being stick thin is perfectly fine. But the glorification of morbid obesity, the anti-science medical misinformation that so many of these activists have spread is toxic and self-destructive and leads people to an early grave. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stand by and accept that and nod along just to be tolerant and accepting. No, screw that. Enabling people isn't necessarily the kind and compassionate thing to do in every circumstance. And I even question why this kind of content. Obviously, the mukbangs in some contexts aren't that bad, but when you have these creators whose entire shtick is monetizing them slowly eating themselves into an early grave. I don't understand why that content is allowed to flourish and go viral and why audiences reward that disturbing behavior. I mean, that's kind of demonic to me. But two, why platforms don't treat it like they would any other form of self-harm content, which they wouldn't allow on their platform and certainly wouldn't allow people to monetize. But somehow, maybe because they're influenced by some of these woke ideas about fat positivity or whatever, they treat this stuff differently. Like, I have no issue with influencers occasionally showing themselves pigging out and doing a big mukbang, but if your whole shtick is you eating insane amounts of food as you slowly kill yourself, audiences need to stop rewarding that. And companies shouldn't treat that differently than other forms of self-harm content, or this is where we end up. And guys, this is just one example, but there are a bunch of body positivity, fat positivity people who have died early deaths, in many cases as a result of health issues related to their obesity. Enabling and encouraging this stuff is not kindness, it is not progressive, it is not tolerant, it is cruel. And we should never bully or shame people. That's not helpful. We shouldn't be bullying and fat shaming anyone or pushing unrealistic expectations, but we do still need to advocate for actual health, and we shouldn't glorify or socially reward severe obesity. To me, is just another sign of how broken online culture is. Apparently, not just here in America, but around the world. What do you think? Are you somebody who actually likes watching these mukbang videos? Let me know in the comments. Up next, Democrat Gavin Newsom just got caught in a huge lie. So he just did a podcast with Charlie Kirk, and apparently Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is trying to present himself as more moderate or less woke ahead of a potential 2028 presidential run. That's why he's doing sit-downs with right-wing people, finding issues where he can agree with them, but he is straining credulity with some of the things he's saying. Like, he just lied about never having said Latinx, the fake gender-neutral word woke people made up to use instead of Latino or Latina. Take a listen.
You said 2020 is when you started to see the Democrats sort of advance this notion of wokeism.
It's when the awakening
really started. What was it?
You know what I'm talking about.
No, but so is it? Yes, the Latinx stuff. That, by the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
But where did that even?
No
go?
more Latinx,
like,
everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
So it's bizarre and galling for Gavin Newsom to claim that no one in my office ever used Latinx. Babe, you used it many times. I just searched it on Twitter real quick and I found 2 tweets from him saying it. In 2019, he tweeted a statistic: children in poverty, 31% Latinx. In 2020, he tweeted COVID-19 disproportionately impacts the Latinx community. Meanwhile, Fox News reports about a bunch of times his staff used the term in official communications. So look, I'm all about people growing and changing and evolving, but this rebrand from Gavin Newsom does not feel genuine. It feels deeply cynical and not honest. And if you're going to change your position, you should not lie about it. You should admit, yeah, you know what? I fell for a lot of the woke craze. I went in on the Latinx thing, and in hindsight, that was really silly and actually deeply offensive to most Latino people, woke white people trying to colonize and rewrite their language. I'm sorry I participated in that, and I've learned, and I'm different now, and I'll do better. That I wouldn't have so much of a problem with. We all get things wrong. We all make mistakes. But don't gaslight us and try to rewrite history and pretend you never did the things we all know you did when there's extensive receipts right there for anyone who looks. That is shameless grifting and lying. And sadly, it's kind of par for the course for Gavin Newsom. What do you guys think? Are you buying Gavin Newsom's sudden rebrand? I actually, as much as I am not a fan of him, I do think he could be a formidable presidential candidate. He's charismatic, good looking, and apparently willing to flip-flop like a gymnast to match the changing tides of the American public, which while I don't view it as honest, is certainly an asset in politics. What do you guys think? Do let me know. And all right, everybody, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go, and we'll talk again real soon.